There was a man named Daniel Reyes who lived like a king. His palace sat on top of the highest hill in the city, surrounded by marble fountains and rose gardens that bloomed all year round. Daniel was the heir to his family's empire, hotels, real estate, shipping companies that stretched across 3 continents. His name alone could open any door, stop any conversation, command any room. When his convoy of black SUVs rolled through the streets, security guards saluted and pedestrians stepped back in awe. He had inherited not just wealth, but power that most people could only dream of. Daniel had been married to his wife, Elena, for 5 beautiful years. Elena was not like the other women in their social circle. She did not care about fashion shows or charity galas where the rich pretended to care. She was gentle, with warm brown eyes that always saw the good in people. Her laugh was soft, like wind chimes on a quiet evening. Even though she wore designer dresses and diamond earrings, there was something humble about her, something pure. And now, she was 6 months pregnant with her first child. Her belly had begun to show, round and precious beneath her flowing gowns. She glowed with the kind of happiness that money cannot buy. She would rest her hand on her stomach and smile, imagining the future, imagining their family complete. Everyone who saw them together said the same thing. What a blessed couple. What a perfect life. Photographers loved them. Magazines put them on covers. They were the image of success, love, and prosperity. But behind the tall golden gates of their palace, something had begun to shift. Something quiet. Something dangerous. It started 3 months ago when Elena told Daniel she needed help around the house. The palace was enormous. 30 rooms, 3 kitchens, a ballroom they never used. Elena tried her best, but with the pregnancy, she grew tired easily. Her back ached. Her feet swelled. She could not keep up with everything. So Daniel agreed. He told his assistant to hire a maid, someone trustworthy, someone professional. That is when Marina arrived. Marina was young, maybe 25, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that seemed to notice everything. She had smooth skin the color of caramel and long black hair. She often tied back in a sleek ponytail. She was beautiful, but it was not the kind of beauty that made you smile. It was the kind that made you watch your back. From the very first day, Marina moved to the palace like she had been there for years. She did not ask many questions. She did not lower her eyes when Daniel walked into a room. She looked at him directly, confidently, like an equal. That should have been the first warning. Elena was kind to her. She showed Marina where everything was kept, explained how Daniel liked his coffee, told her to take breaks when she needed. But Marina rarely took breaks. She was always nearby, always available, always just around the corner when Daniel appeared. At first, Elena thought nothing of it. She was just doing her job well. She told herself, she is just efficient. But then the small thing started. Marina began serving Daniel his meals personally, even when Elena was sitting right there. She laughed a little too loudly at his jokes. She found reasons to enter his study when he was working, and Daniel, busy and distracted with business, did not seem to notice. Or maybe he did not want to. When Elena gently mentioned it one evening, Daniel only shrugged and said, "You're imagining things, my love. She's just a maid." But Elena's heart whispered otherwise. She felt it. Something was growing in the shadows of their golden palace. And it was not the baby. Marina was clever. She did not attack Elena directly. She did not shout or accuse or make scenes. No, Marina was far more dangerous than that. She worked slowly, carefully, like a spider spinning a web in the corner of a room where no one looks. She whispered. She suggested. She planted seeds of doubt in Daniel's mind so gently that he did not even realize they were growing. It began one afternoon when Daniel was in his study going through contracts. Marina brought him coffee, just as she always did now. She set the cup down carefully and hesitated at the door, as if she wanted to say something but was afraid. Daniel noticed. "What is it, Marina?" he asked without looking up. Marina bit her lip and shook her head. "Nothing, sir. It is not my place." But Daniel looked up now, curious. "Tell me," he said. Marina stepped closer, her voice low and concerned. "It is just I saw Madame Elena on the phone yesterday. She was speaking very quietly, almost whispering, and when I walked past, she quickly hung up. I do not want to assume anything, sir, but it seemed secretive. Daniel frowned. Elena, secretive? That did not sound like her. But the seed was planted. He said nothing, but the thought stayed with him. Over the next few days, Marina continued. Small comments here and there. Madame Elena went out again today without telling anyone where she was going. Or, I heard her laughing on the phone late at night. I hope everything is okay. She always said these things with concern in her voice, as if she truly cared, as if she was only trying to protect Daniel. And slowly, painfully, Daniel began to pull away from his wife. He stopped asking Elena about her day. He no longer sat with her in the evenings to feel the baby kick. When she reached for his hand, he would pull away, distracted, distant, lost in his own thoughts. Elena felt it like a knife in her chest. Daniel, what is wrong? She asked him one night, tears filling her eyes. He looked at her coldly, something he had never done before. Nothing is wrong. I am just busy, he said, but his tone said otherwise. It said, I do not trust you anymore. Meanwhile, Marina made herself indispensable. She was always there when Daniel needed something. She worked late into the night organizing his files. She remembered everything he liked, how he took his tea, which newspapers he preferred, what time he liked to eat. She became his comfort, his constant, and Daniel, tired and confused, began to rely on her more and more. He did not see the trap closing around him. Elena felt like a ghost in her own home. She wandered the long hallways alone, her hand on her swollen belly, whispering to her unborn child, It will be okay, my love. I promise. Your father will come back to us. But even she was starting to doubt her own words. And then the accidents began. Small things at first. A staircase railing that suddenly felt loose when Elena leaned on it. A wet floor in the bathroom with no warning sign, causing her to slip and nearly fall. A glass that shattered in her hand while she was drinking water, cutting her palm. Each time, Marina was nearby, rushing to help, her face full of false concern. Oh, madam, are you all right? You must be more careful. You are carrying a baby now. But Elena knew these were not accidents. Someone wanted her gone, and that someone was living under the same roof, smiling at her husband, pretending to care. Elena's heart raced with fear. She was trapped in a golden palace that had become her prison. The night it happened, the moon was hidden behind thick clouds. The palace stood silent under the dark sky, its golden gates glowing faintly under the security lights. Inside, everyone was asleep. Daniel was in the master bedroom on the second floor. Elena was resting in the guest room down the hall. She had been sleeping there for the past week because Daniel said he needed space. Her heart broke a little more each night she spent alone, but she told herself it would pass. She told herself love would win. She had no idea that tonight someone had decided she would not live to see the morning. Marina moved to the palace like a shadow. She had planned this for weeks, every detail, every step. She knew where the alarms were. She knew which exits Daniel used. She knew how to make it look like an accident. Around midnight, she went down to the basement where the main electrical panel was located. With gloved hands, she carefully disabled the smoke detectors and the automatic sprinkler system. Then she moved to the side exits, the servants' doors, the kitchen entrance, the garden gate. One by one, she locked them from the outside and pocketed the keys. Only the main entrance remained open, and that would be for Daniel alone. At 2 a.m, Marina returned to the kitchen. She soaked several towels in cooking oil and placed them near the old wooden cabinets. She lit a candle and positioned it carefully, letting it burn down slowly until it touched the oil-soaked fabric. Within minutes, flames began to spread. The fire crawled up the cabinets, licking the walls, consuming everything in its path. The smoke thickened quickly, pouring to the hallways like black poison, and Marina slipped out to the main door, leaving it unlocked only for Daniel. Then she disappeared into the night. Elena woke to the smell of smoke. Her eyes snapped open, her heart pounding. The air was thick and gray. She coughed, her throat burning. "Daniel!" she screamed, throwing off her blanket. She stumbled to the door and pulled it open. The hallway was filled with smoke. Flames roared somewhere below. Panic seized her. She had to get out. She had to save her baby. She ran toward the main staircase, but the heat pushed her back. The flames were climbing fast, blocking her path. She turned and ran the other way, toward the side exit near the servants' quarters. She shoved the door. It did not move. Locked. No, 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 she cried, pulling at the handle desperately. She ran to another door, also locked. Every exit she tried was sealed shut. Someone had trapped her inside. Her lungs screamed for air. Her baby kicked hard inside her belly as if sensing the danger. Tears streamed down her face. She was going to die here. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. "Daniel!" she screamed. "Daniel, help me!" Daniel appeared through the smoke, his face twisted with confusion and anger. But he did not run to her. He stopped several feet away, staring at her like she was a stranger. "Elena," he said coldly, his voice shaking. "What did you do?" Elena's heart shattered. "What?" "Daniel, I did not. Someone locked the doors. Please, we have to get out." She reached for him, but he stepped back. Marina's poison had worked. He believed his wife was dangerous. He believed she had done this. Daniel stood frozen, torn between the fear Marina had planted in his mind and the woman he once loved, now begging for her life. And the flames grew closer. Marina appeared from the smoke like a ghost. Her face was streaked with ash, her clothes torn at the shoulder as if she had barely escaped. She stumbled toward Daniel, coughing dramatically, her eyes wide with terror. "Sir, thank God you are alive," she gasped, clutching his arm. Daniel turned to her, his face pale and drenched in sweat. "Marina, what happened? How did this start?" he demanded. Marina's eyes flickered toward Elena, who stood frozen against a locked door, her hands protectively wrapped around her pregnant belly. Then Marina looked back at Daniel, and her expression transformed into one of deep sorrow and fear. "Sir, I do not want to believe it, but—" She hesitated, as if the words were too painful to speak. "I saw her," Marina whispered, loud enough for Elena to hear. "I saw Madame Elena in the kitchen earlier tonight. She was doing something near the stove. I thought she was just making tea, but now I understand." Elena's mouth dropped open in horror. "What? That is a lie. Daniel, I was asleep. I have been in my room all night." But Daniel was not looking at her anymore. He was staring at Marina, listening to every poisonous word that dripped from her lips. "Sir, I think she wanted to hurt you," Marina continued, her voice trembling with false emotion. "She has been so angry lately, so jealous. I heard her on the phone last week saying she wished she had never married you. She said you had ruined her life." Tears rolled down Marina's cheeks. Perfect calculated tears. "I did not want to tell you because I thought she was just upset because of the pregnancy. But now this fire. Sir, I think she planned this." "No!" Elena screamed, her voice breaking. "Daniel, please. You know me. You know I would never." But Daniel raised his hand to silence her. His face was hard, unreadable. The man who once held her gently, who once promised to protect her forever, now looked at her like she was a monster. Marina pressed further, sensing her victory. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small bottle. "I found this in Madame Elena's room this morning while cleaning," she said, holding it up to the firelight. The label read lighter fluid. "I did not think anything of it at the time, but now it all makes sense." She handed the bottle to Daniel. Elena's heart stopped. "I have never seen that before in my life." She planted it. "Daniel, please, you have to believe me." Her voice was raw, desperate. She took a step toward him, but Daniel stepped back again, his eyes filled with doubt and anger. The smoke around them thickened. The fire roared louder. Time was running out. But then, something unexpected happened. Elena's fear turned into fury. She straightened her back, wiped the tears from her face, and looked directly at Marina. "You want to know the truth, Daniel?" Elena said, her voice suddenly strong and clear. "Ask her where she was 10 minutes before the fire started. Ask her why every single exit in this palace is locked from the outside. Ask her how she knew exactly where to find you in all this smoke. Marina's confident smile faltered, just for a second, but Elena saw it, and so did Daniel. And ask her, Elena continued, stepping forward now, her eyes blazing, why the security cameras in the basement were turned off tonight. Because I checked the system 2 days ago, when I started suspecting something was wrong. I saved the footage, Daniel. I saved everything. Marina's face went white. Her hands trembled. She had not expected this. She had underestimated the quiet, gentle Elena. She is lying. Marina shouted, her voice rising in panic. She is trying to manipulate you, sir. She is desperate. But Daniel was no longer looking at Marina with trust. He was looking at her with suspicion. The cracks in her story were showing. The mask was slipping. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Marina realized she was losing control. The flames roared around them, but the most dangerous fire was a truth that was about to consume her lies. Elena's words hung in the air like thunder. Daniel stood frozen between the two women, his mind racing. The fire crackled and roared around them, eating through the palace walls. But suddenly the most dangerous thing in that room was not the flames. It was the truth. What footage? Daniel demanded, his voice sharp. Elena reached into the pocket of her nightgown with trembling hands and pulled out a small USB drive. 2 weeks ago, I noticed things were not right, she said, her voice breaking but determined. You were changing, Daniel. You were cold, and Marina was always there, always watching. So I hired a private investigator. I had him look into her background. Everything is on this drive. Her real name, her criminal record, the family she has destroyed before ours. Marina's face twisted with rage. Give me that, she screamed, lunging forward. But Daniel stepped between them, his hand outstretched. Elena, give it to me, he said quietly. Elena placed the drive in his palm, her eyes never leaving his face. I wanted to tell you sooner, but you would not listen to me. You stopped trusting me. Daniel stared at the small device in his hand. His entire world was collapsing. He looked up at Marina, searching her face for answers. Is this true? He asked, his voice hollow. Marina laughed bitterly, and in that moment, her mask finally shattered completely. True, she spat. You want to know what is true, Daniel? The truth is that you are a fool. A blind, stupid fool who could not see what was right in front of him. She took a step back, her eyes wild. I came into this house with a plan. I watched you for months before I even applied for this job. I studied you, learned everything about you, about your wealth, about your inheritance. And I knew if I could just get rid of her, she pointed at Elena with pure hatred, I could have it all. I could be the next Mrs. Reyes. I could have your name, your fortune, your life. Daniel's blood turned to ice. You tried to kill her. You tried to kill my wife and my child. His voice trembled with a rage he had never felt before. Marina backed toward the door, her expression shifting from anger to panic. I did what I had to do. She did not deserve you. She is weak, soft, pathetic. I am stronger, smarter. I would have made you a king. The ceiling above them groaned. A beam crashed down, sending sparks flying. The heat was unbearable now. Marina, where are the keys? Daniel shouted. Unlock the doors. But Marina only smiled, a twisted, broken smile. Why would I do that? She whispered. Then she turned and ran toward the main entrance, the only exit she had left unlocked, the only exit meant for her escape. No! Daniel screamed. He ran after her, but she slammed the heavy door shut behind her. He heard the lock click from the outside. She had trapped them both. Daniel pounded on the door, but it would not budge. He spun around. Elena was still standing by the locked side door, coughing violently, her body swaying. The smoke was choking her. The baby, his child. Elena! Daniel screamed. He had made a terrible, deadly mistake. He had believed the lies. He had abandoned his wife when she needed him most. Now he had only minutes to make it right, or lose everything that truly mattered. He tore off his shirt, covered his mouth, and ran through the flames toward the woman he had almost destroyed. Daniel ran through the inferno like a man possessed. The flames licked at his skin. The smoke burned his lungs. But none of it mattered. Only Elena mattered. Only his child mattered. He reached the locked door where she stood, her body trembling, her eyes barely open. "Elena, hold on," he shouted. She looked at him weakly, her hand pressed against the door for support, her pregnant belly rising and falling with labored breaths. Daniel grabbed a heavy bronze statue from a nearby table and swung it against the door lock with all his strength. Once, twice, 3 times. The wood splintered but did not break. "Come on," he roared, his voice raw. He swung again, and this time the lock shattered. The door burst open just as Elena's legs gave out beneath her. Daniel caught her before she hit the ground, wrapping his arms around her trembling body. "I have got you," he whispered desperately. "I have got you, my love. Stay with me." He lifted her into his arms, her head falling against his chest. She was so light, so fragile. He could feel her heart beating faintly. "Please, God," he prayed as he carried her through the smoke-filled corridor. "Please do not take them from me." Behind him, part of the ceiling collapsed, sending a shower of embers and debris crashing down. But Daniel did not look back. He pushed forward, step by step, toward the garden exit that was now open. Meanwhile, outside the palace, Marina ran through the darkness. She had circled around to the servants' entrance at the back of the property, the one she had unlocked for herself before starting the fire. Her hands shook as she fumbled with the gate. Freedom was just beyond it. She could disappear into the city, change her name again, start over somewhere else. She had done it before. She could do it again. But as she pushed the gate open, bright lights suddenly flooded the area. "Freeze! Do not move!" Voices shouted from every direction. Marina spun around, her eyes wide with terror. Police officers surrounded her, their weapons drawn. Behind them, fire trucks lined the driveway, their sirens wailing, their lights flashing red and blue against the night sky. Firefighters rushed past her toward the burning palace. "No," Marina whispered, backing against the wall. "No, you do not understand. I am the victim here. I am the one who—" But before she could finish, 2 officers grabbed her arms and forced them behind her back. The cold metal of handcuffs clicked around her wrists. "Marina Voss, you are under arrest for attempted murder, arson, and conspiracy," one officer stated firmly. Marina screamed, thrashing wildly. "Let me go. You have no proof." It was her. It was Elena. But her cries fell on deaf ears. One of the firefighters had already found the disabled alarm system, the locked doors, the oil-soaked towels. The evidence was everywhere. And Elena's investigator had already sent copies of Marina's criminal records to the police days ago, just in case something like this happened. Marina had walked straight into a trap of her own making. At the front of the palace, Daniel staggered out into the open air, Elena still cradled in his arms. Paramedics rushed forward immediately. "She is pregnant. 6 months. Please help her," Daniel begged, his face streaked with soot and tears. They laid Elena gently on a stretcher. Her eyes fluttered open briefly, meeting his. "Daniel," she whispered. "I am here, my love. I am right here," he said, gripping her hand tightly as they loaded her into the ambulance. "You're going to be okay. Both of you." 3 days later, Elena opened her eyes in a white hospital room. Sunlight streamed through the window, warm and soft. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then the memories came rushing back. The smoke, the flames, the locked doors, Marina's twisted face. Her hand flew to her stomach. "My baby," she gasped. "The baby is fine." Daniel's voice came from beside her bed. He looked exhausted, his eyes red and swollen, his clothes wrinkled. He had not left her side since the ambulance brought her here. The doctors checked. Strong heartbeat. No complications. "You both survived. Elena, you are both miracles." His voice cracked as tears spilled down his cheeks. Elena turned her head to look at him. The man who had doubted her. The man who had almost let her die. But also the man who had broken through fire to save her. "I am sorry," Daniel whispered, falling to his knees beside her bed. I am so sorry, Elena. I was blind. I was weak. I let that woman poison my mind against you. I abandoned you when you needed me most. I almost lost you. I almost lost our child because I was too foolish to see the truth. He buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with sobs. I do not deserve your forgiveness. I do not deserve you, but I am begging you, Elena. Please give me a chance to make this right. Elena stared at the ceiling, her heart heavy. The physical wounds would heal. The baby was safe, but the emotional scars ran deep. How could she trust him again? How could she forget the look in his eyes when he believed Marina's lies? The silence stretched between them like an ocean. 2 weeks later, Marina stood in court, her hands cuffed, her face pale and hollow. The charges were read aloud. Arson, attempted murder, fraud, identity theft. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage from outside the palace showed her locking the doors. Her fingerprints were on the disabled alarm panel. The investigator presented documents proving she had done this to 3 other wealthy families before. She was a professional predator, a woman who destroyed lives for money and power. The judge showed no mercy. Marina Voss, you are sentenced to 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Marina's scream echoed through the courtroom as guards dragged her away. Her plan had failed. Her greed had destroyed her. Justice finally had been served. Meanwhile, the Reyes palace stood in ruins. The once beautiful mansion was now a blackened skeleton of twisted metal and crumbling stone. Daniel stood before it, his hands in his pockets, staring at what remained of his golden life. Everything he had built, everything he had inherited, reduced to ash. But he realized now that none of it mattered. Not the money, not the power, not the reputation. The only thing that mattered was a family he had almost destroyed. Elena was discharged from the hospital a week later. Daniel brought her to a small, quiet villa by the coast, far away from the city, far away from the memories. I am not asking you to forget, Daniel said as they stood on the balcony, watching the waves. I am not asking you to forgive me right away, but I am asking you to let me prove myself. Let me rebuild your trust, brick by brick, day by day. Let me be the husband and father I should have been from the beginning. Elena looked at him, her hand resting on her belly where their child grew stronger every day. She thought about everything they had survived, about the lies, the fire, the betrayal, but also about the moment he ran through the flames to save her, about his tears, his broken apologies, his genuine remorse. I will give you one chance, Daniel, she said quietly. But this time, we do things differently. No more mansions. No more distractions. No more letting strangers into our lives without truly knowing them. We rebuild together as equals with honesty and respect. Or we do not rebuild at all. Daniel nodded, fresh tears in his eyes. On your terms, Elena. Always on your terms. The fire had destroyed their palace. But from the ashes, perhaps something stronger could grow. Something real. Something built not on golden gates, but on truth and trust. Only time would tell if Daniel could truly become a man his family deserved. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful tales of betrayal, redemption, and second chances. Drop a comment below. Would you have forgiven Daniel? What would you have done in Elena's place? Let's talk about it. And stay tuned, because the next story is even more shocking. You won't want to miss it.